Delta has recently converted to a REIT, and just to understand what the benefits of a REIT are, we have been roadshowing Delta in the Middle East and the Far East in the last couple of weeks, and there's a lot of interest from international investors. We have engaged specifically QIA in Qatar, who are looking for international REITs to invest in. So being a REIT has really opened the market from a Delta perspective, allowing more investment to come into Delta. Where Delta differentiates from other REITs is the fact that Delta is a commercial office fund that really is focused on government and parastatal assets. And yes, there are challenges with government, but it's interesting that the international market, because South Africa has an investment grade, sees government very favorably and the government underpin very favorably. And what does that mean? It means that a government fund will have long-term leases, so our lease expiry profile is that of beyond 7 years. It has very good escalations. Delta sits with a vacancy of just under 3%. Where the office market is under strain, Delta isn't under strain, even though it's a commercial office fund, because it's led to government. So really, that's what differentiates Delta and makes it a very specific type REIT, where the stability and the high-yielding income comes from. And also then the fact that South Africa is an investment grade will then see international interest wanting to invest in a fund like Delta because of the government underpin. So just to clarify and just to expand on what the return is on Delta. So Delta currently sits on an income return with no capital growth of just over 12%. That growth, that yield that investors can obtain, we have shown a growth on that number on year of just over 11%. With regards to the fund itself and not being affected by the interest rates, the fund itself is 80% fixed in relation to the hedging instrument that it has, and for a period of 3 years. So Delta is a very high-yielding fund. If you look at that in comparison to the sector average yield is currently sitting on about 7.5%, and Delta is obviously sitting in excess of 12%, which makes it a very, very attractive investment. What a lot of investors do, they will go and borrow money at basically whatever prime is sitting at 9%, and they will then go and take that money and invest it in Delta. Between the differential between the 12 and the 9%, there's upside on day one. So it makes it a very, very attractive investment to potential investors. What has been absolutely fascinating with regards to our roadshows in both the Far East and Middle East is that people outside of the South African market are bigger believers in South African government than our own market. And that really comes around the fact that South Africa is one of 3 countries on the African continent that has an investment grade. And there's a lot of international interest around South Africa. So when we talk about Delta and we talk about a government sovereign underpin, they see Delta as that they would see a government bond. If you look at where a government bond is sitting, government bonds are sitting at 7% with no capital appreciation. Delta is sitting at just over 12% return. So it's a very, very attractive investment, and it's quite, as I've mentioned, fascinating to see how the rest of the world are bigger believers in South Africa and our government than we are. And when it comes to dealing with government as a South African fund manager, people are a lot more anxious and they discount a share for that reason. So it's been the international investor interest has been very promising to see in the life of Delta.